Hello, today is Friday, it's the 28th of February, and it's the last day of what's been a really ugly month. Let's talk about if this is a buy the dip day or not, because I kind of think it is. We've seen some really nasty selling pressure into options expiration, crypto options, spot crypto options at Deribit, which are the options on spot markets and cover an awful lot of altcoins, not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, unlike, the mid-month ones in ETFs, all expired this morning at 8 a.m. UK time, which is pretty interesting when we look at the charts of quite a lot of big assets, which all made a low this morning at 8 a.m. For example, this is an early chart of Ripple. Our low this morning was 8 a.m. In fact, pretty much across the board. If we take a look at a lot of assets that were moving or had a lot of downward pressure, here's ETH. The low this morning was 8 a.m. and here we are recovering. Even in Bitcoin, which has pulled back to really interesting level that we were looking for, the low this morning here was 8 a.m. and here we are on our way higher again. So let's start with Bitcoin and talk about why this is a really interesting level. If we go out to the weekly, I spoke before about how very often in this upswing, we'd seen pretty interesting 50% retraces of the most recent swing before continuing high. It doesn't mean that the correction is over, but very often when you have a 50% retrace, you will very often see quite a decent bounce and very often 50% the other way. So if we look from this August the 5th low, this 50% level, which is the round number 80,000 area, and if we zoom out, we know that we spoke about this on Wednesday, we're going to take a look at this 200-day moving average. So this little peak underneath this 200-day moving average, if we were to do this and close back above it, it would be a pretty bullish trigger. Quite often with these big moving averages, first time back, you do have a little look underneath, but holding it and getting back above it again would be quite a good signal. So where do you bounce when you bounce from a 50% retrace? Well, holding back above this daily 50 moving average, our first target has got to be this swing high from yesterday and this 38.2 fib level, which would be 86,381. And the rule about this 50% rule is if you can hold above 86,381, you're going to bounce 50% the other way. So 50%, so 86,381 would be our first target, and the second target then would become 93,800, which interestingly is quite a pretty good support and resistance level as well. So, and then, we can talk about whether we're going to keep going higher or not. The thing with a 50% retrace that keeps repeating, or mean reverting markets that keep reverting to mean or 50%, is they kind of tend to do it until they keep breaking out. So you'll go down 50%, up 50%, and you'll coil up until you break the pattern, and that kind of tells you which way next. Because it's not clear, because we made a marginal new high here, it's possible, that we do 50%, we do this and we do another leg higher, and we still do another leg lower before this is over. It's possible that we go sideways for this first quarter in Bitcoin. But for now, we are looking like a decent bounce. So how to get in on a low? First, I want to say that on a lower time frame, it's quite common to see a retest or a higher pullback. So if you're looking at this and going, oh God, it's rallied 1,500 already without me, I would say buy pullbacks, but expect them to be fast today. And then see where we close. And then after tomorrow, again, you can buy pullbacks, where those levels are. Same thing in ETH. In fact, before we go to ETH, let's talk about Microstrategy, because this is also quite an important level here. In Microstrategy, we were talking about this 200-day moving average and this potential kind of fib projection target for Microstrategy as well. So we could see a pretty decent bounce from here. And if we measure from this low to high, which is the August 5th low where everything kind of found a bottom, this looks like, to me, one of those messy kind of 61.8 levels that we need to get back above. And so I would say, if we're looking at our first target bounce on the upside, it really has to be in MicroStrategy 270. And if we can get above 270, we're going to look for 322 next, and we'll kind of retrace those fib levels, if you like. But certainly, the last 3 days, that has been the high that's capped us. And so if we look on an hourly, really basically we're looking back for the top of this sideways range and this gap, which we fell into, which is now resistance in MicroStrategy. And then obviously that breaks us out of our sideways range, and then we can talk about a bigger bounce for MicroStrategy. Okay, in ETH, so again, low is at 8 a.m. was at 8 a.m. this morning UK time. If we zoom out and look at where we are on the weekly here, we're at the bottom of this channel really from all the way back from 2022. But if we look at horizontal levels instead of a channel here, let's go all the way back to this low, these lows and highs here. In fact, this high. There's a really kind of interesting support and resistance level around this 2000 level. So if we look at the highs in April 2023, these lows in January 2024, they were lows again when we tested them in August. And so we are at a kind of really interesting support and resistance level, and a retest of the low where we had the really nasty shakeout at the beginning of the month when the tariff tantrums first began, if you like. So we've basically retested the low of this candle where we got a really decent bounce before. And so again, on the lower time frames, we made it at 8 a.m. But for me, this is a pretty decent place to bounce from. So the key question is going to be, where are we going to go to from here? I look at short-term moving averages, as you know. So here on the hourly, you can see all the way down, basically, these hourly moving averages. This is the 20 and 50, been pretty tough resistance. And we are in a little bit of a zone. I much prefer for a bottom to see something like this, a double bottom or some kind of a bottoming pattern or a deep pullback and a retest. I think it kind of gives you something to lean against, or a better idea that we really are bottoming. But having seen this big nasty swing down in options expiration, we may get a pretty nasty swing higher. So it may be that you want to wait, in ETH until we get maybe a back above some of these hourly moving averages and buy a pullback, something like that. It's not a terrible idea, but watching the bounce today and how we close, and if we can hold these lows, I think is a really good signal for a much bigger bounce in ETH dollar. And big picture, because we have retested this bottom here, let's go to the 4 hour. We've retested the low from the beginning of the month with a swing failure pattern. Really, we could say back to the top of this sideways range and potentially back to that 3000 level. So from 2000 to 3000 in ETH, if we can keep going. And for me, I'm always relying on that 236 fib. So if we go from this low to high here, 2,276 for me would be it. If we can hold above 2,276, I think that we are on our way to a much bigger bounce. It won't be in a straight line, but back to the top of this range potentially in ETH. This 50% level in the middle will be tricky as well. That's at 2,500. And I've seen ETH do this before in nasty moves. It'll do very big 500 increments. So bouncing from 2,000, 2,500 might be the first tricky level. And then if we hold above it, 3,000 and so on. It does tend to do that and react around big round number levels. Okay. So what about Solana? Because that's the one that had a really nasty shakeout, didn't it? Options have expired. I do think that Solana is going to see a pretty decent bounce. I think pretty much everything well. The fib levels for me are not working so well. in this one, so I'm going to take them off. And I'm going to say if we see a bigger bounce here, I'm going to look for these moving averages as targets. And for me, the first one on the daily is going to be this daily 20 moving average, this previous swing low and these swing lows here. And that is also where our weekly 50 moving average is, which is pretty strong medicine for Solana. So yes, I do think that we could bounce from here. We're at what, 144. We've bounced from this really nasty 130 previous low. I am expecting a much bigger bounce here, and first upside target, having done this, I think it's going to be all the way up here at this 174 level where we went sideways and tried so hard mid-month to hold. So yes, I think we could see a decent bounce. However, remember that an awful lot of tokens in Solana get released tomorrow. And it's possible that we may meet some selling pressure. So let's see how this unfolds. But yes, if you want to buy something that's been really beaten down, then Solana's the one. If you want to buy something that's holding its uptrend, which is Bitcoin, and holding the 200-day moving average is pretty much the definition of holding an uptrend, then Bitcoin's the one. But yes, Solana is definitely due quite an oversold bounce. We'll just see what happens with tomorrow. Okay, I got a few token requests and we're going to take a look at them, and then I'll do a longer altcoin update over the weekend. As you know, I bought some BNB. We dipped underneath this 236 fib level. If I look at this on the weekly, we've had a look today with these sharp moves this morning back underneath this weekly 50 moving average in BNB, and this fib level that I was hoping the market would hold as support, which is here. It's around 603. So back above 603 after a shakeout today, for me, would be pretty bullish, and I'm still going to be looking for, we've had a big bounce, I'm still going to be looking for another swing higher in BNB. But yeah, it hasn't been fun buying this early, let's put it that way. And this was the level I was hoping to hold as support. If this is a false breakdown today on this options expiration, we can get back above 607.75 fib level, 603, that big 50 moving average. I think that that's going to be quite a good signal. So here's our first swing pullback, and I'd be looking for another leg high. I'm not optimistic yet that we're out of trouble and starting a new upswing. Here's the thing, people say, oh yeah, buying the dip's not a good idea, if it's not going to go up. Buying the dip's always a good place to buy if you have realistic expectations of where your target are. So buying a dip in an uptrend, which clearly BNB is a good option, looking for this being the next swing higher to take it to new highs. Buying the dip in something that's in a really nasty downtrend means that you kind of need to have a lower expectation of where your target is. Or buying a pullback is always a good idea. It's just, it might not be taking you to new highs in a downtrend. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of the requests. First one is Anon, which is Hey Anon, which is obviously quite a new coin. You can see this launched at the beginning of January. If we look at this as a daily chart, you can see this has done one of those very typical new launch pullbacks. But this to me looks like a big 3-wave move lower. Look, 1, 2, 3, and within that there were 3 waves, and that is always quite corrective. So I'm going to be looking for another swing higher, and this bounce that we had did that 50% thing. So we got up to the 50%, pull back 50%. And so now I'm looking for another swing higher. We've been held down here in the middle, but I really do like how this back test, especially so far today, this back test of this kind of 50% back level is holding. For the last, really since Tuesday, we've been held underneath this newly minted daily 20 moving average, or we've been in a little bit of sideways consolidation, whichever way you look at this. But we could argue that this is a nice rally and a 3-wave pullback. So I'm looking for this little thing to break out here that we're in, and then I think that this has another leg higher that should have a mathematical relationship to this first swing. So if we measure from this low to this high of this first swing and project it here from this low, our first target then, if we break out, is going to be a retest of these highs at 10.047, and if we get up to the equal measured move, it would get to 12.75, and if this is going to be 3 waves and then a really strong wave 3 higher here, we should get up and retest the highs here at 16.5 to 17, which would be where this swing would be 1.618 of this first swing. So 10.047 really is the first level that we got to get above, and then we can look at these much bigger targets. But again, in a week or a month where most meme coins and new stuff has been absolutely, well, I don't want to use a rude word, not looking good. Something like this that's buying pullbacks in something that's holding up really well, I think is a really good trading strategy. As I kept saying, this week we looked at, what did we look at? Popcat, Bert, Frog. So this one, Hey Anon, I think we can add to the list of stuff that is holding up really well. I'm really looking forward to seeing this break out. I'm buying it. This will be my first target, and we'll go from there in Hey Anon. Looks pretty good. Another one we've got a request for is ZEP, Z-E-P. Let's take a look at this one. And actually, I don't think that's the one. I'm going to have to find out make sure I've got this right, because I'm not sure. I'm going to make a separate video for that one. But across the board, I'm expecting a bounce today. I think this has been a really nasty shakeout, and that means quite a lot of the stuff that got really beaten down might bounce as well, and quite a lot that's trending higher should see really nice pullbacks. One of the ones that I was looking at as a leading indicator was Pepe, and Pepe got a little bit underneath the level that I was hoping held, and that was this, if in Pepe it was this equal measured move level from the high in December 2024 last year. So this was our ABC equal. I'm looking for Pepe, if I'm going to keep being bullish, this one, to get back above this previous swing low at 795 that we dropped underneath, and close back above it, and then we could call this a kind of swing failure pattern false breakdown. If this level becomes resistance here at 795, then we have to kind of wait for a bigger, better bottoming signal. That's just an update on that one that I talked about a couple of days ago. If we do a false breakdown here in Pepe, and if we start taking out, we've been making lower lows, if we start taking out these highs, then first target in this one, let's go back to the daily, is going to be up here at this daily 200 moving average, and this back test of this 61.8 level at 13.28. So Pepe, still watching, hoping this is a shakeout. Again, this is another one. When you look at it, where was the low this morning? In Pepe, it was 8 a.m. this morning, 8 a.m. here. Have I got this one on the right? Oh no, I haven't got it on the right time setting, +2. So it was still 8 a.m. Yes, the low this morning in Pepe. So still looking for this one, again, to move higher. Hoping that my throat recovers soon and I can start talking about some more charts. Good luck. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to